It's New Year's Eve, 1980, Minneapolis, Minnesota. People are celebrating, counting down, popping champagne, and somewhere in the freezing cold of St. Paul, a woman is dying in a snowbank. At 3 a.m, 911 dispatchers receive a phone call. The man on the line is crying hysterically. Between sobs, he manages to say,
"Please, there's an ambulance too. There's a girl hurt there."
Then he hangs up. Officers rush to the location near Pierce Butler Road and Syndicate Avenue, and they find 20-year-old Karen Potak, naked, beaten nearly to death with a tire iron. Her skull cracked open from the force of the blows. She had been at a New Year's party with friends just hours earlier. Now she's half buried in snow, barely breathing. She survived, but she would spend years recovering from traumatic brain damage. She never fully recovered. Police searched for the man who made the call. They assumed he was a witness, maybe even a good Samaritan. They had no idea he was the one who did it, and they had no idea that this weeping, sobbing voice on the other end of the line would terrorize the Twin Cities for the next 2 years. This is the story of Paul Michael Stephani, the weepy-voiced killer, a man who murdered women and then called the police to beg them to stop him. Stay with me, because what makes this case truly disturbing isn't just the murders, it's the phone calls, because each one gets worse, each one gets closer, and one call, one single, desperate call, is what finally brought him down. Now here's where most videos would stop and say, let's go back to the beginning. But with Paul Stephani, the beginning doesn't explain anything. It just makes it worse. He was born September 8th, 1944. The second of 10 children, raised in a deeply Catholic household in Austin, Minnesota. A faith that would haunt every single one of his crimes. His mother remarried when Paul was 3 years old. His stepfather was violent. If the children got in his way, he would smack them across the head and throw them down the stairs. That is just Tuesday in the Stephani house. Paul grew up, graduated high school, moved to St. Paul, hospital janitor, shipping clerk, unloading trucks at a steel mill. He got married, had a daughter, abandoned both. Then the job started disappearing. He suffered from epilepsy, and he blamed every firing on it. The resentment built, the anger had nowhere to go. And then came the thing that investigators believe may have lit the actual fuse. He had a girlfriend. She left him, moved back to Syria for an arranged marriage. Stephani was devastated in a way that went far beyond a normal breakup. Because when detectives later looked at his victims, they noticed something. All women, and almost all of them, wearing red clothing. Stephani himself called it out in one of his 911 calls. Completely unprompted. If somebody dies with a red shirt on, it's me. Detectives believe that in those moments of violence, Stephani wasn't fully seeing his victims as themselves. He was seeing her. The woman who left him. And every woman in red was a reminder he couldn't live with. Whether that's the full truth, nobody knows. Stephani never gave a clear motive. What he did say was that there was a voice inside his head that told him, "Paul, it's time to kill." He also said that after one of the murders, he walked into a Catholic church, sat in the back pew, and cried. The guilt was real. The killings kept happening anyway. A violent childhood, a faith he couldn't live up to. a rage that had a face and a color. And somewhere in that city, an 18-year-old girl had just stepped off a bus. She had no idea he existed. She had about an hour left to live. 5 months after Karen Potak survived, Paul Stephani killed for the first time, June 3rd, 1981. 18-year-old Kimberly Compton had just stepped off a bus in St. Paul. She was from Pepin, Wisconsin, small town, big dreams. She had come to the city that very day looking for a job, a fresh start. She never made it past hour 1. Her body was found by a group of teenagers near a freeway construction site. She had been stabbed 61 times with an ice pick. 2 days later, the phone rang at a 911 dispatch center. The caller was crying, hysterical.
Oh, you find me? I just stabbed somebody with an ice pick. I can't stop myself. I keep killing somebody.
That call, that weeping, desperate, pleading voice, is what gave Paul Stephani his name, the Weepy voiced killer. Over the next few days, he called again and again. He said he was sorry. He said he would turn himself in. He never did. Police were desperate. They knew this voice was their best lead. So a local TV reporter, Caroline Lowe, had an idea. She asked the police chief for permission to broadcast the recordings on television, to let the whole city hear the voice. They did. Over 150 calls flooded in from the public. Tips, guesses, people who thought they recognized the voice. None of them led anywhere. The hysterical crying distorted the voice too much to confirm anything. And all the while, police traced his calls. Twice they got close. Once to a bar near a bus depot. Once to a downtown phone booth. Both times. By the time officers arrived, he was gone. Then came the murder that broke the pattern entirely. July 21st, 1982. Kathleen Greening, a 33-year-old schoolteacher, found drowned in her own bathtub in Burnsville, Minnesota. No phone call afterward, no weeping confession, no ice pick. Just a woman dead in her home, initially ruled an accidental drowning and quietly filed away. Nobody connected it to the Weepy voiced killer. The crime looked completely different. Detectives working the case didn't even look twice at it. That was a mistake that would haunt them for years, because 2 weeks later, he was back. August 5th, 1982. Barbara Simons, a 40-year-old nurse. Stephani met her at the Hexagon bar in Minneapolis. He asked her for a cigarette. She smiled, handed it over. Before she left with him, she told the waitress, "He's cute. I hope he's nice, since he's giving me a ride home." Her body was found the next day, stabbed over 100 times. 2 days later, the phone rang.
Fire emergency.
Please don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry I killed that girl. I stabbed her 40 times. Kimberly Compton was the first one over.
Police now had confirmation. The murders were connected. They had a voice. They had locations. They had a monster. What they didn't have was a name. 3 women dead, 2 survivors. A killer still walking free, still calling police in tears after every attack. And he was already looking for his next one. August 21st, 1982. Paul Stephani picked up 19-year-old Denise Williams. She was a sex worker. He offered her a ride. Standard enough, until he started driving the wrong way, away from the city, into dark suburban streets. No streetlights, no people. Williams knew. She knew exactly what was happening. Stephani pulled out a screwdriver and stabbed her, but Denise Williams did not go quietly. She grabbed a glass bottle and smashed it across his face with everything she had. The gash was deep, severe, blood everywhere. A neighbor heard the screaming, came running, and wrestled with Stephani long enough for Williams to get help. Stephani fled. Williams survived, and Stephani drove home, looked in the mirror, and realized he was in serious trouble. So he called 911 for himself. When the St. Paul Fire Department picked up, something stopped the dispatcher cold. The voice on the line, high-pitched, distressed. It had what they would later describe as oral similarities to the Weepy voiced killer recordings that had been sitting in evidence for 2 years. 37-year-old Paul Michael Stephani had just turned himself in without realizing it. Police arrested him. And when Detective Brown sat across the table from Stephani and slid the Weepy-voiced killer case file, photographs of the victims laid out in front of him, Stephani stood up. "You're not gonna pin those on me." And his voice cracked, went high-pitched. "Right away, it struck me as the voice I heard on the recordings," said Detective Brown. Stephani was charged with the murder of Barbara Simons and the attempted murder of Denise Williams. He pleaded not guilty. He was convicted anyway. 40 years for Simons, 18 years for Williams. But prosecutors knew the truth. They were only scratching the surface. We believed Paul Stephani had killed Kimberly Compton and assaulted Karen Potak, but we didn't have the evidence, said Tom Foley from the Ramsey County Attorney's Office. 3 families still had no answers, and Stephani, behind bars, wasn't done talking. Convicted, locked away. Most killers go quiet at that point, but somewhere in a cold case file, a school teacher's name was sitting in a folder marked accidental. It had been there for 15 years. Nobody had looked twice until now. December 1997. Paul Michael Stephani is 53 years old, 15 years into his sentence. He has just been diagnosed with terminal melanoma cancer, less than a year to live. He asked to speak with investigators. He said he wanted to confess. He wanted to apologize. He wanted families to have answers before he died. And in a taped confession, Stephani laid out everything. New Year's Eve, 1980, Karen Potak. He said he had seen her walking without a jacket in the freezing cold. He told himself he was going to offer her a coffee, a ride somewhere warm. Then something shifted. He attacked her with a tire iron and left her for dead in the snow. He called police right after. Then Kimberly Compton, 18 years old, first hours in a new city, stabbed 61 times with an ice pick before she ever got to unpack. And then, the one nobody saw coming, Kathleen Greening, the schoolteacher, the bathtub, the accidental drowning that was never accidental. Police had never once considered Stephani for that case. No phone call, no ice pick, no signature. It looked nothing like his other crimes. But Stephani knew details about Greening's apartment that only the killer could have known. Specific things that weren't in any report. And when investigators went back and searched Greening's address book, there it was. Paul S., his phone number, written in her handwriting. He had known her personally. He had walked into her home, and he had never called it in, because even he had limits on what he would confess to in the moment. After the confession, Stephani told investigators he wanted to reach out to the families. send flowers, write letters, apologize personally. He wrote to Caroline Lowe, the reporter who had covered his crimes since 1981, the same woman who had put his voice on television, hoping someone would recognize it. He asked her for the family's addresses. She never wrote back. On June 12th, 1998, Paul Michael Stephani died in Oak Park Heights maximum security prison. He was 53 years old. The flowers were never sent, the letters were never written, and 3 families were left to carry the weight of answers that arrived 15 years too late. Here's what stays with you about this case. Paul Stephani knew he was doing wrong. He felt it every single time. He went to church and sat in the back pew and cried. He called 911 and begged to be caught. He described his own crimes in detail, gave locations, gave names, essentially handed police a roadmap to his door. And then he went out and did it again. Was the remorse real? Probably. That's almost the worst part, because it means this wasn't a man without a conscience. It was a man with one, who simply could not make it matter enough to stop. His Catholic upbringing gave him the guilt. The childhood gave him the rage. The rejection gave him the target. And none of it, not the guilt, not the calls, not the tears, was ever enough to save a single one of his victims. Paul Stephani never stopped. He was stopped by a woman with a glass bottle and a voice that finally gave him away. If this case stayed with you, like and subscribe. See you next time.